Well, good morning, and I want to say thank you to the gentlemen up here who are on the front lines of so many of the issues that people in the Hudson Valley care about: public safety, combating crime. We're all concerned about some statistics around crime rates increasing, but I think it's probably worth noting at the outset that we live in a pretty safe area, and that if you look at the national violent crime statistics, we're at about half the rate of violent crime here in the Hudson Valley as the national average. So our area is twice as safe, you could say, as most American communities, and we're proud of that. We want to keep that going. Where I live in Putnam County, for example, I think it has the lowest rate of violent crime of any county in New York State. Now it's one of the smallest, and it's one more rural, so we know we have some differences there, but the fact is that even in here in Orange County, I think the rate is about half, about 179 violent incidents per 100 citizens versus 366 nationally. And it's because of leaders like these two gentlemen and their police departments and our sheriff's department that do such good work. So I'm pleased to be joined by Chief John Ewanciw. Well, I should probably start with the mayor of Middletown. My good friend Joe DeStefano is here. Thanks for being here, Mr. Mayor, and Chief Ewanciw is here on my right. Also joined by Chief, can I get this right, Sztyndor from Deerpark. How do we do? Close enough. I've stayed it for
Sztyndor.
Chief Sztyndor here from Deerpark. If you see how the word is spelled, you'll be more generous with my pronunciation. But Chief Sztyndor from Deerpark. Thank you for being here, and also from the town of Fishkill, Supervisor Ozzy Albra. Thank you for being here, Supervisor Albra. And we have some good news to report in addition to some of the more troubling things I think you've heard. First, in the recent budget that was passed in Washington, we've made significant investments in law enforcement. In fact, I think what you'll see is in the area where we support local law enforcement, the Department of Justice grant programs that we're going to be talking about today, we're talking about a 15% increase enacted into law as part of the 2022 federal budget versus the 2021 federal budget. That's a big deal. And that's going to be why I'm able to support local law enforcement even more fully. Of course, I'm proud of the fact that in my time in Congress, I've secured $7 million directly for law enforcement here, the departments here in the Hudson Valley and the sheriff's departments through a variety of grant programs, and we're happy to get you the information on that. But suffice it to say, I think about half of it's right here in Orange County, and you don't need to take my word for it. You can talk to the police departments. You can talk to in all four counties that I currently represent, whether it's Chief Pape up in Poughkeepsie, Mayor Rollison up there will tell you the work we've done there, but of course in Newburgh as well, here in Orange County, Middletown, and other departments. But there's nothing like having a better federal commitment to be able to increase that funding, and we will have that as well. Of course, this is in addition to the $350 billion that was dedicated to supporting local communities in the rescue plan. Remember, that's why communities like Middletown and Newburgh and Poughkeepsie and counties like Orange County and Dutchess County now have resources to invest in public safety that they might be cutting if we had not provided that support. It's been absolutely critical coming out of the crisis of the pandemic that we've supported our local communities. And that's where the rubber meets the road on whether these guys get the money they need. What does it mean? It means in the local law enforcement and COPS grant programs, we will be investing over $2.7 billion in the federal budget for 2022. That's an increase of $425 million over the 2021 level. That's an increase, as I said, of more than 15%. Those are the primary programs through which the Department of Justice supports thousands of local police departments and sheriff's departments, including ours right here. In addition, there'll be $356 million for federal law enforcement training centers to provide the type of training for law enforcement that they need across numerous state and local organizations. So that's where we walk the walk. we're not just talking about it. We are investing in more public safety, in supporting good policing. Now, we've had a robust conversation about police reform in this country over the last year. At the height of some of the public unrest on that in 2020, I remember meeting with Chief Ewanciw and other local law enforcement leaders and talking about this. The fact is, we do have reforms to make, and there are things we can do. One of the most interesting developments, I think, is that both law enforcement and people arguing for reform in law enforcement agree that body cameras are some of the best technology we can invest in. Supervisor from Fishkill is here, and I'm pleased to be announcing that in my next round of community investment projects, we're going to be awarding $600,000 to the town of Fishkill for a body camera project for the town of Fishkill Police. That's a priority for the local police chief. It's also a priority for reform advocates, because all of us believe that we should know what happened. And if good officers are doing it right, we want to know that. And if there's misconduct, we want to know that too. But what I think is encouraging is when both sides think, no, we're going to do better if we know the facts. And that's why I like particularly the request, and thank the supervisor for being here, and happy to talk about it. Give him the microphone in a moment, because I just think we've seen this happen, and we had I know we had a shooting in Fishkill not long ago, domestic violence incident, I believe, where a man was carrying a knife. And it's under investigation now, but without getting into the facts of it, the point is these things happen, and it's precisely when we want to know, what happened. And I think that we've seen examples of where video technology, no kidding, reveals misconduct. I've also seen examples of where video technology really exonerates the officers and shows that there was a threat to them or to someone else that required the use of force, even deadly force. And so we're going to invest in that, and proud to make that announcement. We've actually already done so in response to the police department in Deerpark making that request last year, and we were able to secure $30,000 to do just that. And I'm going to let the chief talk about that. I think we even got a check for you as well. Since that one's done, it's in the bank. But we're going to go back and do the same thing for Fishkill. In addition to that, we know that video technology works to help police departments identify suspects more rapidly. So, for example, if you think about in the city of Newburgh, where my office helped secure the funding for the shot spotter technology, which is the acoustic sensors that can pinpoint the exact location of a shooting, even the type of weapon being used. That's great. But what Middletown has requested, and I'm so thrilled to support, is the additional technology that allows the type of license plate reading and video evidence to provide the police department with the kind of data and video record it needs to follow up on those types of crimes. And so while we don't have the shot spotter technology here, having the type of video surveillance technology and license plate readers is the kind of thing that will really help them get after people who are engaged in those kind of crimes. And so very happy to announce that we're supporting the request for the Middletown Police Department for $300,000 to support that very worthwhile crime-fighting technology. And I'll let Chief Ewanciw talk a little bit more about that. And so I think it's a good example of how even when there's things people disagree about in this conversation, of course there's going to be things people disagree about. It's America, but that there are good things we can invest in: more training, more support for our police officers, more community policing, and accountability, and best practices, and that is where I think we'll make progress together as a community. Instead of having just an argument about it, we can actually do things better. And that's what I wanted to get together today and talk about. So with that, I'd like to invite my fellow partners in public service up here to say a word or two. And we should probably start with Mayor DeStefano, since we're in your city. Well, and always happy to be here.
Well,
Mayor.
Yeah. Would it be better if each person got where you are
Yeah, I think it'd be better if I gave him the mic and I didn't keep getting up, Hank. Until you guys get better technology, we're gonna keep our seats. How about that? Just kidding. You're right.
And then we'll just go down the road. Take care of it. Thanks. Well, Congressman, once again, thank you for coming back into Middletown and addressing some of the issues that we've raised to you in the past. You know, the defund movement was concerning to a lot of us in local government, no matter what side of the political aisle you were on. And I was one of those who said this slogan was a foolish statement and sent the wrong message, especially to a community like Middletown, where we have 30,000 plus people in 5 square miles.
Yeah, you and me both.
We don't need to defund, we need to fund more, and we need to fund in different ways also. And what we've been doing on a local level is, you know, we know we have to hire police, and we take care of that. We address some of the internal needs that we have here locally, but one of the most effective tools that we found is technology and how it's working, and the chief can go into the grant program, but I just want to thank you for being a partner, recognizing that we all pay federal taxes, and we should all share in those benefits that come down to local government, not just big cities. You know, when people think about crime, they think about large city crime, but to us, it's quality of life. And the changes that we've made over the years in our policing tactics, we've had significant decreases in crime, and in fact, we're at our lowest level since 1990 with crime stats here in the city. So we think we've been effective, but that came by partnering with people like yourself and our state representatives and getting their adequate resources into our community. So I want to say thank you, and let Chief Ewanciw can specifically talk about the program and the benefits of the program, but it's important to have that federal partner. So you've been here for us in the past, and I want to thank you once again for delivering here.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief? Chief John Ewanciw. I'll let him spell Ewanciw.
Congressman, I can't thank you enough as well to just express the sentiment of the mayor. You've always been supportive of City of Middletown, especially law enforcement. As you've said, we've had conversations in the past that you've actually capitalized on and provided us with resources to better police this community, so thank you for that. In regards to this project that we proposed to you, you've said it, the mayor said it, the technology is so vital and so important in today's policing for a multitude of reasons. The proposal that we made to your office is to expand on our existing infrastructure of closed-circuit TV or camera system. We originated that program in 2003, and some of it's antiquated. We want to expand upon it and update some of it, and additionally add to our license plate reader program. We currently have 10 in various locations throughout the city. Between the camera system and the license plate readers, they've been instrumental in solving a multitude of crimes. In today's environment, with some of the changes that have been made, there's a reluctance of both the victims and witnesses to cooperate. So having that camera footage or license plate footage, it secures the ability to formally prosecute crimes that sometimes we wouldn't be able to. So it's been proven day in and day out to be instrumental, and we look forward to working with you in your office on expanding that project and making our abilities to enforce the quality of life and other crimes in the city that much greater. So thank you for that.
Thanks, John. And our next guest is Chief Sztyndor from Deerpark, where they're a little bit further down the road than Fishkill on this body camera project. Chief, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on that and why you support it.
Well, I want to thank you myself for supporting us in this endeavor, because as a small department in a more rural community, we don't have the same resources that maybe a Middletown does or a Fishkill. So it's important that we get the support from the federal government, state government, local government, and all. This project's going to bring us one step closer to the ability to have the body camera program for each officer to enhance our ability to prosecute crimes, weed out bad officers. We intend to use it for training purposes and that sort of thing. And it's great that the federal government Congressman Maloney can support us in that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Chief. And Mr. Supervisor, let's talk about Fishkill. Fishkill is, that's all right. Fishkill, I think Fishkill is I can say this. I won't make you say it. Fishkill, the town of Fishkill, is not one of the most liberal bastions in the Hudson Valley. This is a pretty conservative place. I think I routinely get my butt handed to me politically in the town of Fishkill, but I say that for a reason, which is that why does the town of Fishkill want body camera technologies on its officers?
Well, thank you for hosting this event. Thank you, Mayor, for letting us use your spot. It wasn't that they were against the body cameras, it was that we couldn't afford the body cameras.
Right.
And the second part was that we didn't need the body cameras because nothing happened. So 2 years and 2 months in my term as supervisor, there was a shooting. And it's under investigation, so I can't elaborate too much on that. But being a police officer, I'm a retired police officer from the town of Bedford. Police officers put themselves in situations that if you read a book, you wouldn't believe it, because it's just crazy. And this is one of those incidents where the patrol officers went to an incident, a domestic. They were outside on the street. Then the second incident occurred where two people are coming down the road, one person carrying a knife. I'll cut to the chase. There was a shooting. The perp was shot. An innocent victim was shot. And it's in the court system. If we had these body cameras, we would know exactly what happened. And there'd be no ambiguity with it. So I thank you very much for this. This is especially an important tool for the citizens of Fishkill. And I think no matter who you are in Fishkill, they're grateful for what you're doing for us.
Well, thank you, Ozzy. And so just before we open up to the press, are there other areas where you guys think that technology or training or other steps we can take would square the circle on some of this debate we see in our society, right? I mean, like Joe DeStefano, I thought it was the dumbest thing anybody ever said, to defund the police. Anybody who knows anything about law enforcement knows you have to resource the police. You just need to have good police departments, good training, good practices, right, and accountability, sure. And I really am encouraged by the willingness of police departments to say, no, we want video evidence. We believe most of our officers are out there doing the right thing every day. But, all of us probably behave a little differently when we know somebody's watching. And so it's probably a good practice to be in to know that, right, your interactions with the public are going to be subject to that kind of review and scrutiny. Are there other things we can be doing along those lines, or anything else you want to say about that?
The city of Beacon, when they had a consent decree with the federal government, they ended up getting cameras. And it's clear the officers more than they've been in trouble, so it's been a good thing in the city of Beacon. What I would like to see is, I love what the chief is doing there and the mayor is doing with these cameras, reading the license plates. I think that's an outstanding tool for any municipality to have. I would also like to see the cameras in the city of Beacon. They have cameras not only on the officers, but when they walk into the police department, there's cameras watching them. So I'd like to see that expanded also.
You mean
When they make an arrest, they bring somebody in, the camera's on.
Oh, I see.
So when the guy says, yeah, the cop slapped them in the head, they go to the videotape, and that didn't happen.
Yeah, right.
So it's a tool to protect law enforcement. It's a tool to protect the citizens, because you're not getting sued and you're not seeing your taxes go up to pay for these lawsuits.
Right. And how do you feel about the cameras in the cars too, right? Because sometimes the cars capture the traffic stop.
Yeah, I
just
like
as
when
well
I
as
do the body cameras, I'm going to put the cameras on the cars also.
Yeah.
I think that's a great
Can you do
idea.
that as well? Yeah,
Yep.
because that's exactly right. Because there's really those are the two perspectives you want, right?
That's
what's
the-
going on outside the car. Because often something happens outside the vehicle, and the question is how to get going, what happened, was the officer's life in danger, what was going
Absolutely,
on?
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, do you agree with that? I mean, probably ought to bring the mics back down here so these guys have some chance of hearing anybody else. But I'm sorry to make you do that.
No problem.
But are there other technologies, other things we can do that are, because I got to tell you, I don't, when this all got going and we were saying, give me those two. When we were all saying, why don't we do more funding for body cameras and for cameras in cars? It wasn't clear to me that the police departments would necessarily say, no, we want that. I'm not sure I want to be filmed, when I'm doing my job, right? It's not an obvious thing. And yet, here we are. And Chief, why do you think that is?
I think a lot of officers realize that, you know, it can save them. I had an incident happen to me years ago with a camera in the station. Somebody made a false accusation against me. The camera showed exactly what happened, and I was exonerated from what took place.
Interesting. And so without that, you feel like it could have
Oh,
hurt your career?
absolutely. The person that made the accusation took some steps to injure himself, so he would have injuries to say that I
Is that right?
did on him. So, you know, it exonerated me. So
And do you think most officers feel that way?
I think so. I think most officers are out there to do the job, to do it the way it's supposed to be done, and they take pride in what they do, and they don't want to be accused of things that didn't happen.
Yeah, Chief, what do you think? I mean, I actually think some of these folks out there who are critical of police departments would be surprised that most officers say, no, we want to be protected. We think we're doing the right thing. Go ahead and we'll wear a camera on us. Do you think that that's? I mean, I actually think it's a real confidence building measure with your community to just be able to say that one thing. To be able to say, no, we welcome it. We think there's at least as many unfair allegations as fair ones, but don't take our word for it. Roll the tape, right? I mean, you think?
I agree 100%. We implemented the body camera program January of 2021. For the most part, everybody was very supportive, but within a few weeks of it actually being put into place, I pretty much 100% compliance throughout the department. Nobody wants to go out on the street without it today. We
Really?
found...
Is that right?
Yeah,
What?
we found in the past, like, someone would make an allegation against an officer and provide an audio or video clip, but it was a very fragmented portion of that audio or video clip. Now we have the ability to have the whole video of what actually transpired, and it's been very fruitful for us. Don't get me wrong, we've had situations where we've had to coach officers or take other actions against officers for, you know, inappropriate behavior, but that's the smallest portion of it. I think the majority of it shows that the officers are out there day in and day out giving 100% to the communities that they serve and doing the right thing. And it supports the officers. It shows that they're actually doing it instead of always being told, like, hey, you did something wrong, or being accused of doing something wrong. Well, we can show the video and show that that is not true. It's been instrumental. We took that away from our police panel, the Executive Order 203 police panel that was instituted by the state. And that was the big takeaway from our panel, that the community wanted the body cameras. The mayor and city council were able to provide that for us, and it's been a great program since.
You've just had that how long now?
Just over a year. January was 1 year.
This grew out of the
police panel.
The police panel,
Actually,
which was
we
a
implemented it.
reform after the George Floyd incident, where all the police
Correct.
departments did
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
and that's what came out of it.
We implemented before the panel issued its decision, because we were so impressed by the system that was being proposed by the chief. We've been talking about it for years, but our attitude was, when the state police do it, we'll do it. And for some reason, the state police never did it. And so once we started hearing from the public and out of the Floyd incident, and we decided to go full speed ahead on it. But one other thing I think interesting part, I know when the chief first talked to me about it, was with youth. That, you know, sometimes little Johnny doesn't do anything wrong. And we have on video some things with little Johnny, the way they're addressing the police.
Right.
And their mother and father really is a little taken back by little Johnny's behavior. So they got a different attitude. They're just hearing it from them, but when they see a video, they actually change their attitude, and that's good, because they know what they're dealing with. They know the kid's not being completely honest with them, but they also have some attitude changing to do with their kids too.
Well, and I like the
it's
point
effective.
that the chief made, that you get the complete record as opposed
Absolutely.
to, well, and then together with cell phone evidence that, you know, is increasingly common. I mean, that was the thing, right, in the George Floyd incident. But the point is, you get a complete record, and you can see as much as possible. You can reconstruct that
See for yourself.
moment in time, which, as the supervisor points out, I mean, everybody immediately has a different recollection. Even if, you know, I mean, I think there's studies on this about how bad we are as human beings in recalling things, and how slanted it quickly gets. And so when you see the tape, right, that part of the altercation might have been forgotten.
Eyewitness is
or not
the best
on a
witness.
cell phone tape. Yeah. Great. Anything else you guys want to add, or should we take a couple of questions from the, go ahead.
It also is good for open government that we're doing these things.
Open government.
Open government. The more open the government is, it's better for the citizens, because they know what's going on.
They see what's happening.
That's what I mean. I think it's a confidence builder. I think it's really powerful when you can say, look, we understand people have concerns. You hear these wild things. Well, we're all going to be able to see exactly what happened. And if somebody did something wrong, that's going to be one thing. But if they didn't, that's something else too. Yeah. It's also got to encourage best practices. I mean, it just does, right? I mean, if you're walking up to the side of a vehicle, you're going to be mindful of not just the usual considerations, but that you're going to be held accountable for how you're interacting. No pushback from the officers on, well, I don't want to be filmed. I mean, I know there's protocols for when they get turned on. It's not essentially 100% of the time, right? It's when they're having interactions with the public. Is that how it works?
Yeah, we have a very robust policy on when they would be turned on and when they're not. We also have some built-in safety features through the program that we purchased, where when the emergency lights go on in the cars, their cameras come on. When the taser is drawn, their cameras come on. If their firearm is drawn, the cameras come on automatically. So we have those.
So they don't
built
even
in.
have to stop and turn it on. It actually happens automatically.
For some of those situations, yeah, there is the ability to turn it on. But I think in today's environment, especially with our younger officers, they're so familiar with technology. The other thing, it became easy for them, but wherever we go in today's world, we're under video surveillance. So now we have a perspective from our view as well. Which I think when they understand and you bring that together, that, hey, no matter where you are, you're going to be on someone's video, so why not be our video?
Yeah, no, I think it's been really compelling. And I wish I could remember the details, but there was the incident maybe a year and a half ago, where a young woman was shot by a police officer who was lunging at another person with a knife. And if you see as you say, you literally see it through the eyes of the officer, and in a matter of seconds getting out of the car with no time to make it, a really... I don't know how he did it. I mean, he responded instantly, but it was initially reported out as the officer shot a young woman, and it was the video footage that I think completely changed the characterization of that event from something the officer did wrong to, I mean, the guy may have been a hero. I think he saved a woman's life who would have almost certainly suffered grievous injury or death. And did it with no time to react. And so, I'm trying to remember when that was, but it's a good example of how you just don't know until you can have that kind of evidence. And really, as you say, from the officer's perspective, you often get the other cell phone evidence, and that's great. You want to put it all together, but no, listen. And I just think it can't be stressed enough that this is something that people who say they want reform of police departments and police departments agree on, and it's a great area where we can do some good work, and we're putting our money where our mouth is. So thank you guys. Thanks for making the requests. We can support these things, but the requests have to come from them. So
we have
should
plenty of
stress,
those.
every time I'm with Joe DeStefano, I seem to be talking about one of them. Yeah.
Plenty of requests.
Well, and you guys know, I mean, this is part of $20 million in community projects I'm now able to fund because we finally have that ability again. I haven't had it for 10 years. So this is just the beginning. I mean, I really look forward to working with, obviously, the mayor on a bunch of projects, but local law enforcement on where we can really do more. Because I do think the solution is in funding the police, not in defunding the police. And of course, we want accountability, and this is one way we can do it: is to make sure good officers are not wrongly accused, and to make sure that if there are officers engaged in misconduct, we'll know that too. So, fantastic. Got any questions, Hank? Anybody else?
Mayor.
Yes.
You talked about license plate readers and video.
Yeah.
Are they two different things we're talking about?
Yeah. License plate readers are, Chief can probably give you more detail on
We know
it.
about those.
They're stationary,
Right.
but we have them on vehicles too, I think.
We have one.
We have portable, yeah, but they are different, but let him address the
But
details
the
of it.
video, will that be on telephone poles?
Well, we have public cameras now.
Right.
In certain areas, so
So
it's an expansion of that.
Right, okay.
Yeah,
Okay, so it's two different.
yeah.
And do you know how the license plate technology, the reading technology works? Just a picture of the license plate, or is it more sophisticated than that?
It's a picture of the license plate. There's no data associated with anything. It doesn't run any personal information. It's specific to the plate. You could sometimes, depending on the time of day and the lighting, you could get a color of a car or a model of a car, but more so just numbers, sequence of numbers.
So you'll know who's in an area if
Well-
something goes down, or how do you use it? What's it get you?
So we'll know that vehicle, we wouldn't know who is in the vehicle or who owns the vehicle. That's just, it gives us a starting point. If someone gives us, information that there is a blue vehicle that fled the area of whatever the crime scene is, if we could check the license plate readers in that area, we have a good chance of getting a license plate to give us another layer, another step to find our suspects.
And then you go get a warrant, or the other kinds of things. you
Potentially,
normally
yeah,
get
there's
to do
other
the
layers in between
follow-on
that, but
investigative
it's a very vital.
So there's some protections for public privacy.
Absolutely.
But it gives you the tools to investigate a crime. Got it.
Congressman, the opposition has painted the Democrats in general as anti-cops and, like you said, defund the police. Is this event today designed to get the word out that, hey, that's not true?
Well, I've got a record of supporting the police that I'm proud of, but it doesn't mean we can't all do better. And I pick up a public paycheck, and I'm accountable if I engage in misconduct. That should be true of anybody getting a public paycheck, whether you're spending dollars in an agency or whether you're putting on a uniform or teaching in our schools. And so I think that it's a false choice to say that we can't have public safety and we can't have accountability and we can't have fairness. We want both. And I think that where there are heated and often really intense disputes among the public and police departments around what happened in an incident where there was a confrontation or the use of force or deadly force, we want to know the truth. And I think it is wrong to jump into our partisan corners when we should be figuring out how we can give people more confidence in police departments, have better police departments. I just think it's nuts to say defund the police, because every improvement I know costs money. It means better training, it means better technology, it means better support. And if you want bad policing and more crime, then defund the police. If you want good policing and less crime, you've got to support good policing. That's what I have always done, and what I'm continuing to do with funding that is discretionary on my part, where I could be doing something else with it. I think it makes sense to support these guys in their work. So, look, there's a lot of people trying to play a political game with this. I think that if I've been successful in this job, it's because I try to block out the noise and try to do the right thing, and try to do it without regard for the politics. And I think this is an example of that. But you don't have to take my word for it. You can go around and talk to the police chiefs in departments on both sides of the Hudson River, who I've been working with for going on 10 years. And I think they'll tell you that I have always been there. Now, I haven't had the capacity I have now to move discretionary funding. So what we've done instead is chase a lot of DOJ grants and other things, which a lot of congressmen don't do, but to get in a game with these departments who are trying to get this funding. But now we can directly fund these initiatives. So I'm really looking forward to the next few years when we can do that, because there's a lot of priorities. So that's what I've always done, so I'm going to keep doing.
How soon did Middletown and Fishkill get the money for their projects?
Yeah, it's a good question. I was just talking to the chief about that in Deerpark. There's some paperwork and agency, interactions you got to do. So not fast enough, but it'll fold pretty quickly. I think right in a matter of months or weeks, not years for these guys.
Probably did 2-3 months, I would say.
Yeah, I think within a couple of months. Some of these programs are new, and so you need to get guidance out from the agencies before they can award funds under them. Think like the lead pipe removal stuff that people are waiting on. But in this case, these are existing programs. They just need to get the money out, and so I think you'll see this funded pretty quickly. With respect to the two other initiatives we're announcing today, they need to be included in the FY23 federal budget. I'm going to see that gets done, and we need to pass that budget. And so that's when that funding will be in the same position the Deerpark funding is, and we'll be able to get it out the door. So two are going forward. One's already done.
I have a couple questions.
Yeah, sure.
This is for probably one of the police chiefs. But in terms of, we've seen some situations around the country where police officers turn off the body cameras at times, and that's really interesting, that program you have in Middletown, where it's stimulated by the light, so we'd love to do a follow-up with you guys on that. But how do you make sure that the police officers keep those body cams on at all times, and especially in, you know, more high-tense situations?
I would say that a good part of that would be having to review and make sure the officers are complying with a good policy that's in place to ensure that.
But there are probably consequences as well if an
Oh,
officer turns off a
absolutely.
camera,
Yeah,
right?
no, if they violate the policy, then there would obviously be disciplinary action taken.
Understood. Chief, Ewanciw.
So, the policy is very important, policy and training, to set the tone for the officers. They need to know what the capabilities are of the device, what is expected of them, and then there's compliance checks. Like, we have built-in compliance checks for every use of force. There's a supervisor review, followed by a higher level of supervisor review. During their evaluation periods, we have it built into the evaluation periods that the supervisors have to randomly choose video to review to make sure they're in compliance with our policy and procedure. And some stuff that we've learned along the way that we didn't expect on the front end was the position of a camera. The officer may be wearing it, but maybe they're wearing it off to the side, so it's never capturing the true video. Maybe it's capturing audio. So these are things that we're learning, and that's part of our compliance checks as well, to make sure that they're not just utilizing them correctly, but wearing them correctly. So as time goes on, we learn a little bit, and we try to make adjustments as we go.
I think there's one more part of that too, is that the camera will go back in time too, right?
So yes, there are
Yeah.
another safety feature built into the camera. The cameras that we purchased, the platform that we purchased, is there's a 30-second loop. So every time the camera is activated, whether it's manually activated or automatically activated, it's capturing 30 seconds prior. So if the officer is delayed for whatever reason, it does capture that prior 30 seconds.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah, that's very cool technology. And I just want to stress again, it's the police departments who are asking for these cameras. No one is making them do this. And I'm proud to provide the funding, but that's why I think it's so encouraging that it's actually the leadership of the police departments, and Chief Ewanciw said the cops don't want to go out without them. And so hopefully we're in a culture where the police officers themselves realize the value of this tool in terms of their own conduct. But if somebody doesn't, yeah, we'll know that too. And that's cool technology to even go back in time when, if they say they turn it on too late or something, yeah.
Right. Congressman Maloney, in terms of the news from Friday of the former Marine from our area, from Orange County, who was killed in Ukraine, any thoughts on his death?
Well, thank you for asking me that. I'm happy to do off topic if we're done on this topic. But look, I understand anybody who wants to go and kill some Russians right now. What the Russians are doing. Russians who are wearing uniforms in Ukraine. Yeah, I mean let me put that a little more delicately. I understand why anybody would want to get in a fight with the Ukrainians. What the Russians are doing is a war crime, and they're killing thousands of innocent civilians right now. And there needs to be a victory on the battlefield for Ukraine, and there needs to be accountability for the Russians who are committing these crimes. And you can't watch the news without wanting to get more involved. Look, I'm proud that we have put unprecedented resources. You'd have to go back to World War II to find the American government providing more support more quickly in conjunction with our NATO partners, and that's key, into the fight, and it's having a huge effect. And as recently as yesterday, I know there was a congressional delegation in Kyiv. I'm glad we're moving our embassy back. I can tell you, as a member of the Intelligence Committee, we are very focused on this and committing a huge amount of resources to this. We are going to make sure that Vladimir Putin fails in Ukraine, and that may take a long time, but it is a struggle we're committed to. And I don't know the details of that case, and so I want to be careful about what I say about it. But what I can tell you is that I'm sympathetic to anybody who wants to support the Ukrainians right now in whatever form you can. I think there's probably better ways than people, unless they've got sort of very specialized training or they're working with good partners, to kind of go directly into the fight. But I think that all of us have a role to play, starting by putting up with some sacrifices here at home, which are going to come out of this war, but also committing our own resources, our own tax dollars to it. And the Ukrainians are doing the fighting and the dying right now. And the least we can do is give them the heavy weapons and the resources to do it, and keep their government afloat while they're in the fight. And we can also take the fight to Russia economically, as we have done, blowing a hole in the Russian economy and going after these oligarchs wherever they are in the world. You will see us, I think, take action on something we call seize and freeze, which is a great initiative to seize the assets of Russian oligarchs, freeze them, and then when they get thawed out, so to speak, use those funds to rebuild Ukraine. Those are the kind of things we can be doing and we should do. But I'm sorry to see the loss of life. It's obviously notable that it's someone who comes right from right here in the Hudson Valley. But I can tell you, when I was in the region, I was not to go on and on about this, but I was at the Polish border a couple of weeks ago at Jessa, where we are doing most of the important work there, and I met a bunch of young kids from the Hudson Valley who are wearing an American uniform, who are very close to the fight and supporting it. A major named Duncan Walker, who grew up at West Point. His dad was a professor there, went there as a cadet. He's now the one briefing me and others and overseeing the activities we're doing there to support the Ukrainians. So there are a lot of Americans in this fight, a lot of them wearing the American uniform as well.
Now, Putin has cancer. It just came out this morning.
I saw that.
A top general is going to take command for the time being. You think that'll hurt the Russian effort?
This is going to have to be last question, by the way, everyone.
Look, if there's one person on this earth who I would wish a bad diagnosis on, it's Vladimir Putin. I think that it is not something we're counting on, that his own health would slow down this brutality he's committing in Ukraine. But I'm not sorry to see it, and if he ends up dying of cancer, I won't shed a tear. Vladimir Putin's a war criminal, and one way or another, in this life or the next, he's going to face justice.
That was my bad. We skipped the Poughkeepsie Journal over here if you had one more.
Yeah, I actually had a question going backwards, and this is specifically for the Fishkill supervisor. You talked a little bit about that February 27th shooting. Can you expand a little bit about how the addition of body cameras would have changed how you have more information about that, and how you were able to get information to the public?
I didn't say it would change the incident. I would say it would show what happened.
But like how much you know about the incident and how you were able to communicate the information to the public.
Yeah, we probably would know what happened
Well, what do
before
you
today.
know now? Like, how do you know?
Yeah, know very little. I just know there was one incident they came to, and then another one happened, and there was a shooting. The suspect was hit, and the innocent victim was hit, and if we had a camera, we would know exactly what happened.
Do we know if the innocent victim was hit by a police officer or was something else involved?
I am unaware that the suspect had a non-department gun.
So
I believe
the person who was not the perpetrator of the incident was hit not by a police officer?
it's possible.
Okay.
Well, so it's under investigation.
It's under
right? And
investigation.
So the supervisor's going to obviously be cautious because there's people looking at this.
Yeah.
I think his point is that we want more evidence of what happened, and we're not afraid of that evidence. And the more neutral, observable video that you guys can look at, that the public can look at, the better. As I understand this incident, the police officers responded to a call, as the supervisor indicated. There were other individuals who were in the area.
A second incident.
There was a confrontation, and what we have been told is that this person had a knife, and that a second person who may have been trying to also disarm the person may have been involved and was unfortunately shot. But I don't know all the details, and like the supervisor, I think our only point is that's why we want more evidence. That's why we want to have body cameras, so when these cops roll up and they're doing one thing and something else happens, you can know, we can know, and there can be accountability.
Right, so I just want to make sure, clear, we're not 100% sure how the second person was injured. It's not
Nope.
clear. Okay.
And it's subject to the investigation right now.
Okay.
And there haven't been any, right? There's no been That's ongoing, right?
It's an ongoing
This happened in
investigation.
February, if I'm
Yeah,
not
it's an ongoing
mistaken.
investigation, and I know they charged him with weapons possession. That's all I know.
And then, do the officers involved, are any of them like on administrative, like paid leave, or are they all on?
They're on paid leave right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Okay, well, thank you,
All
everyone.
right, guys.